Hi, thanks for joining us today. So we're going to be doing some live training with one of our wonderful universities to go through step by step how to use Virteasy Editor to complete a workflow with an intra-oral scanner. So I'm your host, I'm James Markey, and a lot of you will know me already. I represent the international business for Virteasy Dental, and I'm also the CEO of a new startup called Universal Simulation. So let's get started. So today we'll be using Virteasy Editor to complete this workflow. And the workflow is starting with an intraoral scanner. We're able to take a scan from a real patient and then export it in an STL format, which works fantastically with Virteasy Editor. And we can also make more complex cases using Meshmixer, which is a free program to download as well. So once we've completed that, we send it over to our server, and then it's available on all of the simulators in the simulation suite. Nice and easy, nothing extra to do there. So you might be asking, what type of scanner do you need? Maybe you have a Prime Scan, a Seric, a Trios from 3M, or maybe even the Plan Mecha ones. Now, it doesn't matter which type of scanner you have. The only question you need to ask is, does it export in STL format? Now, be careful, some of the companies do charge you for the exports, so do be sure to check that out with whatever provider you've got. But assuming we have that, it'll work fine with Virteasy Editor. And very quickly, the difference with Virteasy compared to all the other simulators out there, because the majority of them only allow you to import an STL from an intraoral scan, and that gives you a single density. Now, what that means is that when you're doing the simulation, it'll be very similar to doing a treatment on a phantom head with a plastic tooth, just a single density as you drill through it. Now, with Virteasy Dental, we can actually take that intraoral scan and complete it by adding densities for the dentine, the enamel, the pulp if we wanted to. And we can also go one step further and design a caries and place it within the scan as well. So that's what I'm going to be taking you through today. So let's assume I've got my intraoral scanner and I've just taken a scan from a patient. So then we're going to jump into this program called Meshmixer. I'm just going to click import, and I'm going to import my intraoral scan in STL format. So there we go. So now I've got my scan and everything looks good. So what I want to do here is I want to isolate a single tooth so I can use that to reduce the size and then replicate the dentine. So what I need to do on the left here is click Edit and Plane Cut. Now, I just click at one point and drag, and like you can see, it's just cut that in half. Now, if I do that the other way, it'll do it in the other direction. Then once I click Accept, it cuts it completely. So I can do the same again, and this time on the other side of the tooth. That looks about right. Click Accept, and I now have a single tooth, but with the same point of origin as the whole jaw. So the last thing to do here is click Make Solid. And the reason for that is that where you've cut through the solid, you might have little hollow gaps. So just as if we were 3D printing it, click Make Solid to tidy those up. And that looks good enough. So I'm just going to go File and Export, and then I'm going to name this Intra-Oral 1 Tooth. And that's it. If we just want to add in the density of the dentine, that's all we actually have to in Meshmixer. So now I'm going to launch up Virteasy Editor and take you through the workflow. So I've got Virteasy Editor up, and I'll get that up on your screen. Here we go. So then from here, I just click Standard Exercise, I can do live intra-oral workflow. So this is the title of the exercise, and this is what the student sees on the overview page. Like it says here, I can take the snapshot in step 3, so I'll leave that for now. And this is the student notes. So I can add images in here as well. So if I take one that I got earlier, and the same for page 2, I can take a different image. So now as I move along, step number 3 is where it gets interesting, because this is the solid creation. So down here, import surface. First thing I'm going to do is find the Intra-Oral STL that has the whole jaw. So you see that that's loaded up and it's currently in red. So on the left there, I've got the material, and I can choose the enamel for this one. Now it's in mid-transparency, and I'm going to leave it like that because we're going to add in the dentine, and I want to be able to see it. So to add in the dentine, you go import surface again, find the tooth that you exported from Meshmixer, and you find that it's positioned against this jaw as well. And then on the 3D view, if you look at the little gizmo I've got here, if I click one of these arrows just on the end, it turns orange. Now if I click and drag, I can change the size. And then when I'm ready, I can change the material to dentine. And what I do, I'll increase the opacity so you can see what's going on. And then on each of these views, it's like a scan, so I can see the distance between the 2 points to check how much enamel I've got there. Now for a simple exercise, I can leave it just like this. Here I can take a snapshot from the 3D view. And if I go back to step 1, you'll see the image has been updated with what we just did. So now continuing our workflow, step 4, I've got my enamel for the jaw, for the bottom jaw, and I've got the dentine in there which I can see. So for the caries, if I take one from the library, when you click that, you'll be able to see a number of different objects you can select. Now I've just selected one, so it'll just pop up on the screen. If I take the middle of this gizmo on the top left, it turns red, and I can click and drag that over to where the dentine is. You just double click to refresh the other views. And then this one here, I can right click and pull the mouse back. That allows me to zoom out and in. The reason it's different here is because here I can use the mouse wheel to change the slices. So you see, as I change the mouse wheel on this view, the green box moves up and down. And there we go. Once I've found it, again I can click and drag. The top one allows me to rotate it in the right direction. And then once I'm happy, I can just double check my 3D view here and make sure everything looks about right. So it looks like I've got a little bit more space. I can bring that up, and I'll just change the rotation on each of these views. There we go. So now I've got my caries. That affects the density as I'm drilling. So if it's right at the top, I'll be able to use a slow speed burr most likely on it. Now if it's restoration, I can, for the target, I can copy the caries. So that defines the caries as my target. Now the reason we have the target separately is because with this, it means that I can then create the target slightly bigger or slightly smaller. And the evaluation, how the simulator grades the student, is based on this. So if I wanted to allow a little bit more removal of the enamel, I could make it slightly bigger. And that looks good. So the next stage is the assessment, and I can choose what I want to assess. So here I'll just have the percentage inside. So that's the percentage of the target that's removed. So I'll do around 80% because the caries was smaller than target. And for the toolkit, I will give 1 slow speed and 1 fast speed burr. And finally for the export, so we're going to call this live Intra-Oral workflow, and I'm going to pop this into the case studies. Click save, and then it just takes a few minutes while it creates all the STL files, it creates the haptics solid and everything else it needs to do to create a live exercise. So I'll just pop you over to the loading screen now, and then as soon as that's done, I'll load up Virteasy Dental and show you what it's going to look like for the students as well. Okay, so let's get Virteasy Dental up on the screen there, and we've now got my main webcam, and I've also got one over here, so you'll be able to see everything that's going on with the haptic device that we're using as well. So let's log on to the simulator. You'll see we've got familiarization, restoration, endodontics, prosthodontics, and implantology, as well as a workshop down here. But on page 2, we have case studies and international. So let's select this one, and we'll see one with today's date. So then we'll just load that up into Virteasy Dental. So here we are in Virteasy Dental, and we can see the Intra-Oral scan that we took earlier. As well as if I pick up the haptics, you'll see me take the burr, and then when I touch the Intra-Oral, the haptics pulls me back, so I can't actually go any further. It's a fantastic feeling, it really is. So then on the bottom of the navigation, I have a slow speed burr. I can change over to the fast speed burr. And then from here, I can start the drilling. So if I So then I can feel the difference once I go from the enamel into the dentine there. And if I bring up the real-time evaluation, you'll be able to see what I've done, so the progress as well as the accuracy. And if I find it here, I can then zoom in, and you'll see the blue part just here is the target. The green is the part of the target I've removed, and the red is material that I've removed that I shouldn't have, that was beyond it. So I can see what's there. I can zoom in on here, and in blue is the target area, and then I can grab the haptics and then remove. So now that I've removed a little bit more, if I bring up the evaluation, you'll see the targets changed, and if I zoom in, I can see the extra work that I've done here. Okay, so just show you the second tab here, I can turn off the highlighted target. I can have the depth, and I can bring up the evaluation. The first one is the instructions, they're the lesson notes that we set in the editor as well. And then finally, I can come out, tick to finish the exercise, and then we've got this new module where you can actually do some self-assessment on your work as well. And what's great about this is we're able to retrieve a 3D model of the work after you've done it. And I'll show you how we can actually use this to 3D print as well. So were you happy with your posture, your result? Would you do something different next time? Would you like a follow-up from your teacher? So when you finish this, it will actually send it over to Virteasy Assistant, and your teacher we'll be able to see your results as well as your responses. So we'll run through that workflow now. What we're in the midst of integrating is a direct launch to Virteasy Assistant. So the students from their simulator can log on, access the work they've just done. So if I do this as a student, I can see the evaluations under my name. I can load them up and then leave comments for my teacher. But if I come back out and sign in as a teacher, you'll see I have access to a lot more. If I go to the evaluations, I can see which ones have been graded already. And if I go into the one from today, so a live training Intra-Oral, that will allow me to see the finished model for the work we just did. So here we go. So the simulator gives me an automatic grade. As a teacher, I can change the things that are marked by the simulator. I have the 3D view of the work that I've done, as well as any notes from the student to the teacher to the student, and my self-assessment questions as well. Then lastly, the teacher can finalize all the results and send that back to the student. As you can see, I've already done that from here. So once I exit, that brings me back into Virteasy Dental, and that completes our workflow. So thank you ever so much for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.